Everyone loves landing a good head kick. The problem is, how do you land a head kick on an experienced opponent? When they have good eyes and good defense, it's not so easy. I'm going to teach you the 5 best ways to land a head kick on any opponent. This video was a request from one of my subscribers, and I think it's some good stuff to cover. Landing a head kick on someone with good eyes and good defense is not an easy thing to do. A subscriber, he used the example of the recent fight between Izzy and Strickland, where Strickland's here with his modified Philly shell, which in general, hands down, means that landing head kicks is much more of a possibility, but Strickland was ready for it, and anytime a head kick would come, he would rise up with that forearm 3-point block, and he was able to stop it. So landing something on someone with good eyes, someone that's expecting a head kick, is not so easy. The first method to land a head kick, this could be the easiest one, is to notice a certain habit and exploit it with what I call the double tap. I covered this in my video last week. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm gonna put a link down in the description below so you can check that out. That'll help your kicks in general. This one, however, is head kick specific. So the double tap is the combination of a straight punch and a round kick. Now, rather than thinking of 2 individual movements, think of them as one movement. So the straight punch, you throw this in the fight, and where this double tap comes in is when you recognize that they like to slip their head to the outside of that punch. When they slip to the outside of that punch, they're doing most of the work for you, which is nice if you're not that flexible, because they're bringing their head closer to that leg, and they're bringing it lower so you don't have to bring your leg up as high. So they're doing half the work for you, they're meeting you in the middle. A lot of people here, when they slip to the outside, they're a little lazy with their guarding hand. So a little defensive tip for you, whenever you're slipping, slip into your guard, slip into your guard. That way, if you do run into a kick, at least you've got some protection. So remember, it's not 1, 2, it flows together, one technique. All right, first method, the double tap. Now the double tap, this is going to be version 2. Same concept, but this one starts with a lead hook. This is something that my coach, James Knight, back in the States, has gotten me with a couple times and actually floored me with it. It's very effective. So it starts with a left hook, assuming your orthodox is lead hook, right? And what you do is you really make them feel that left hook, and you make them fear that left hook. So you start to abuse them mentally and physically with that attack, and you want to look for a certain reaction. One reaction could be, in my case, he was hitting me so hard with this left hook, I was actually swaying away from it to try to avoid the power of the left hook, and it set me up perfectly for that right head kick. Now, even if they are blocking, hit them hard with it, so that way you can kind of knock them into the trajectory of the kick. So what it looks like is hard left hook, head kick. Now, unless you're really flexible, you're gonna need to keep this left hook fairly long. And you might need to step out or back to make room for that head kick, depending on your flexibility. Now these two, the hook into the head kick, and the double tap with the straight, can be combined into one technique. We saw Super Bond do this against Petrosian. Where he started with a hook and then stuck the blinder out in the face, kept this in Petrosian's face, and actually knocked him into the trajectory of the round kick. Thing of beauty. So you went hook, boom. So one more time, hook, works wonders. This next method of landing a head kick is perfect if you're an MMA fighter and you can mix level changes and shots into your game. And it's also perfect if you're not that flexible, because it allows you to cheat a little bit to get a little extra height on that kick. So what I'm doing with the technique before I go into the tactical part of it is I'm stepping off with a big turnout of this base foot, and I'm leaning my head off to the side, which works as a counterweight to help me get that leg up higher. So I'm big opening with that pivot leg, Head off to the side as my head drops. Foot can arc over the top. This is a great way to land a head kick if you're not flexible. So, no hands involved here. Step off, head as a counterweight. Get that foot up nice and high. Now, what's sweet about this kick is when you start combining it with other techniques. Perfect way to do this, whether kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA, is to start with an overhand right. And notice that I'm slipping to the outside and I'm working that step off from the beginning. So this works great as a cross counter, works great as a technique all on its own. Once they realize that the overhand right is a threat, you can feint the overhand right and go into the head kick from there. So starts. So looks like an overhand. Really, it's a feint. Just get my head out of the way. Head kick comes up behind it. Now this one is sweet, especially if you're a wrestler, because an overhand and an overhand feint can not only lead into a head kick, but it can also lead into a shot. So I throw my overhand. I'm here off of this angle. It's the same position I want to shoot in for my shot. So if you can combine these three things, it's quite potent. Overhand, overhand feint, into a shot, overhand feint, into a head kick. You can level change, make it look like it's a shot, into an overhand. You can level change, make it look like it's a shot, come up with the head kick. These all work together great. Now another way to add a layer of complexity to this, something that Carlos Condit used to do all the time, is he would get his head off to this line, and instead of throwing this rear kick over the top, he would actually roll out with a step and throw that lead leg. So head off to the side, step through, kick comes off of the roll. So you can see a little better. Roll, and as I'm rolling and my head's off to the side, counterweight. Now I've got options for my lead or rear leg. So I can throw the overhand feint, get my head out of the way, kick over the top. I can throw that overhand feint or whatever, roll through, lead kick over the top. Very effective. A lot of people do not see this coming. Give it a try. A third way to land a head kick fairly reliably is the question mark kick. Now in my experience, this generally works about one time per opponent. So they'll get wise to your tricks soon. So the idea behind the question mark kick is to make it look like a front kick, and then last second turn it over into a round kick that loops over the shoulder and chops down into the jaw and neck slightly. So the idea is you start, you're torturing them with front kicks, noticing their habits. Now a good thing to pick up on is figuring out which arm they're trying to scoop that teep out of the way with. If they drop the same side arm as you're kicking the leg, that's a perfect opportunity to come over the top. So throwing your front kicks, you have to make them believe it, you have to make them fear it, you have to make them react to these front kicks. And the way you're gonna make them react to the feint is by getting your knee up high enough that they think that something is really coming, and it's gonna come into your round kick. So front kick, not a front kick. The trick to making a good question mark kick is all in the pivot of that base foot. In general, whichever direction my toes are pointed is where the bulk of the power is going to go. If I want to throw my power this way, I want my toes turned out that way when I kick. If I want the bulk of my power to go this way, I want my toes going that way when I throw my kick. The question mark kick, you want it to go up over the top and actually back down a bit. So what I'm doing is when I rise that knee, I take a little bit of weight off the ball of my foot. It doesn't need to be a big old jump or anything, but it's got to be enough unweighting of that base foot where I can turn it over entirely, which allows my hip to roll over and the kick to go up over and actually back down slightly. You want to roll over that shoulder, chop into the chin. That's the idea here. Front kick. Not a front kick. Front kick. Not a front kick. Question mark kick. Works wonders. All right, the fourth method for landing your head kicks is to make your round kicks look the same, regardless of whether you're going for the head, the body, or the leg. I'll show you what I mean. This is something that Jampatong, a Golden Age fighter, was known for, and he was great. So you
with these like body kicks. Do you see how indistinguishable?
His body kick with very little pivot on the base leg. He was very flexible. He would keep the kicking leg nice and straight. Wouldn't worry about power so much. Just keep the leg extending and just chopping in the jaw. So first you go body, body, and it looks exactly the same. And then he would go up a little higher. That's all it was, right? Body, body, head. So if you can watch yourself in a mirror, or you can take videos of yourself, you'll notice these little habits that give away your techniques. And ideally you want to practice it until you can't tell the difference in what's coming. So I want my body kick to look the same as that head kick. So if you're kicking their body and you notice that their guard is coming down at all, you make it look like a body kick, leg just arcs over the top. Now there doesn't need to be a lot of power in this type of kick. Just the weight of that swinging leg is enough to do it. Trust me, head kicks are potent. So one more time. Kick, kick, kick. Just going a little bit higher, okay? Now you can do the same thing starting with a low kick. This works well in MMA. A lot of people will throw that low kick with an upward trajectory, kind of like Liam Harrison, right? And if you notice that the person you're sparring is either sinking to take the kick and fire back, or they're dropping down to grab it and off balance, or dropping down for a takedown, take advantage of that moment where they're putting themselves a little bit closer and hopefully exposing their head to get that leg, turn it into a head kick. So you're working low kick, low kick. They know a low kick's coming, they want to counter, head kick. The idea here is to make your kick to the leg, body, and head not look much different at all. Okay, the last method I want to cover for the head kicks is to use head kicks as a counter to punches. This is something that would have helped Izzy quite a bit against Sean Strickland, because he was just setting the pace so well with those jabs and crosses, those 1-2s. And every time Izzy threw a head kick, Strickland was ready for it, and he saw it coming, and he would extend his arms out to block. Even though his hands were nice and low, he was ready to block when he needed to. The thing is, you want to take advantage of opportunities where the person can't block that well, even if they try. So a perfect example is if he's here, he's ready, and he sees the kick coming, just makes a slight adjustment. If Izzy were to throw a head kick as a counter to a punch, either when that jab or that straight is extended, he's not nearly as covered, even if he's doing everything right. A lot of people, when they throw their jabs, they're letting this drop, which is a no-no. Even if their habits are great and they're staying tucked in, with these MMA gloves, they're so much tinier and the padding is so little compared to these big boxing gloves that you can target the wrist, and you can actually get that wrist to fold in a little bit and kick through their guard and still knock them out. I've seen this happen. So the idea here is, while the person's throwing their punches, you kick them on one side of the head or the other. So the two favorite methods that I like on this, one is a bigger kick arcing over the top, similar to what we did for the overhand feints and whatnot. And what I do here is I parry the jab and then bring that leg over the top. So if you're nice and flexible or you're tall, you can parry it down and just come straight over the top. This is a little tricky in my opinion, because a lot of people I'm fighting with are taller. So you bat it down, over the top.
The tongue's starting to like make them a little bit more serious.
Now, if you're lacking flexibility a little bit, or you're lacking height, you can parry it down and step off and out backwards and drop that head and arc over the top. So you parry, right there. This is something that I accidentally rocked one of my training partners with, and I was doing it very, very, very lightly. I wasn't even doing it during sparring. We were literally just bringing that leg over the top. So you're here, You're interrupting the combination by batting the jab down. And the great thing about this is your head's offline to begin with, so you're already preemptively dodging that cross. So you bat it down, over the top. So you're here, jab comes, bat it down, over the top. Now, if they throw the jab and their hand gets cleared, that's a good time to arc over the shoulder and chop into the head. Another method, this is something that Super Bond did recently, is just fucking incredible, is he just shelled up, waited for his moment, stepped off, and threw that lead head kick straight in between the guy's guard and nailed him. So when I'm this close and I'm getting bombed on by a bunch of punches, you have to actually make space by stepping off slightly. So I'm stepping to the outside and stepping back slightly to make room for this and allow the weight to transfer from left to right, and that weight transfer goes through the kick. So once again, sending my head off a little bit works as a counterweight. So you're here, you're blocking, 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 leg up. So once again, Super Bond did this recently. Blocking, blocking, blocking. Easier with the big gloves, obviously, but you have the small gloves. You can still roll with it. Step off, head's out of the way. Leg arcs through. Boom, boom, boom. Blocking, 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 blocking. Block, 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 block. Or the parry method. Keeping your distance, keeping your distance. Jab comes. Distance, distance, jab comes. Right there. So remember, anytime you're throwing a strike, you're opening yourself up to other strikes. When you throw a jab, you're opening yourself up to kicks over the top of that shoulder, and you're opening yourself up to kicks at the wrist on this side, even if your block is perfect. No different when you're throwing the straight. You can't be guarded 100% all the time and still attacking at the same time. It just doesn't work that way. So if the person's eyes are so sharp that you can't land the kick on them, you need to take advantage of a moment where they may not be guarded and they may not be paying that much attention. A lot of people, when they're attacking, they're focusing on doing damage. They're not focusing on having perfect defense. Even if they have perfect defense, it's not good enough in this case. Right here, head kick to the wrist, head kick arcing over that shoulder. Very, very powerful. Easily able to end the fight. All right, y'all, to thank you for sticking around for as long as you did, I want to throw in one bonus. This one seems a little silly at first, but you'd be amazed at how well it works. I got this from watching Peter Arts and Joe Valtellini. The idea is to shove them and follow up with a head kick. This is great if you knock them off balance, but the idea is you make space, follow up with the head kick. This works especially well in my experience from a clinch break. So you're tied up, working your dirty boxing, working your tie clinch, whatever. In that moment you separate, you decided to take advantage of that blank in their mind. A lot of people, when they separate from the clinch, they kind of shut their brain off for a moment until they find their space and the rhythm again. So you're clinching. When you're ready, you shove off, follow up with a head kick on that clinch break. You'd be amazed how well that works. Give it a shot. Right, everybody, if you took the time to watch this whole video, I appreciate you and I appreciate your support. If you like this video, please like and share it with anyone else that might benefit. If you haven't already, get subscribed. I got more content on the way. If you have any requests, leave them in the comments below or get in touch. I'm here for you.